Born in Cleveland, raised a hillbilly. What's your story? Welcome to the Hillbilly Justice on the School Bus podcast. Here's your host, Sarah Blossom Ware.
Welcome back to the Hillbilly Justice on the School Bus podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Blossom Ware. The chapter I'll be reading today is called Old Time Religion. Smoking is apparently not a sin in Southern Baptist churches because there were always plenty of smokers gathered outside of church doors before and after services. Drinking, on the other hand, had to be conducted stealthily. Liquor store drive-thrus were very popular in the Bible Belt. I remember getting excited when going through the drive-thru with my dad because the tellers always passed out suckers to the kids who were along for the ride. For some reason, we eventually stopped going to church for a period of time. When we took it up again, we began attending the Liberty 86 Community Church near Bug Scuffle Community. 86, as we called it, was about half an hour's drive away from our house, but in the opposite direction of Little Elm. So in the direction opposite of civilization. 86 was an old one-room schoolhouse in School District 86 that now serves as an old one-room church. Granny's son LV was, and still is, the pastor. At the time that we attended, the entire congregation was made up of 5 families: the Vickerys, LV's family, the Kuharicks, my family, the Sherrys, the Cokers, and the Bresslers. The specials at 86 were usually spontaneous, as opposed to prepared in advance, but they were just as exciting. The trio of Leanne and Susan Vickery and Jody Sherry were crowd favorites, especially when they sang I'll Fly Away. Really, any Albert E. Brumley song was a favorite. Turn Your Radio On, Victory in Jesus, He Set Me Free, etc. I always enjoyed hearing Mr. Bressler play his harmonica as well. Milton Vickery, one of Granny's grandsons, would visit on occasion and could always be coerced to sing a stunning rendition of Oh, What a Savior. The baptism of an 86 member was an absolutely joyous occasion. Members of the congregation would take a field trip several miles down the dirt road to a clearing along Fall Creek. I was baptized at Little Elm in a baptistry, which is basically a big bathtub that was permanently built into the back of the stage. This was definitely a spiritually powerful event in my life, but it still does not compare to the energy and symbolism of a baptism outdoors in the middle of a running creek. LV baptized George and Mary Jane in Fall Creek. George's was the first creek baptism that I'd witnessed. As his head was dunked under water, I could tangibly sense that all of his sins to that point flowed out of his body and into the creek and then were simply washed away, just like the way we would sing about in the old hymnals. On Sunday evenings, there was time set aside for testimonials. Usually people would go up on stage to recount stories of how God had answered their prayers and met their needs. One evening, my dad showed up, completely drunk, and decided to do something different with his testimonial time. He decided he was going to preach. Dad only got a few nonsensical words out before he fell hard to his knees, as if he'd been shoved from behind. He looked all around the room as he slowly stood up and then spun around to see who was behind him. No one. He brushed himself off and commenced with his sermon. Blam! His knees hit the stage again. This time, Dad decided to wrap up the sermon and sat back down in the pew. After the service, Doris Coker approached Dad and said, "I believe you felt the power of the Lord." Dad, still a little drunk and dazed, told her, "Yeah, he just knocked the shit out of me." Hey, so now it's time to reintroduce our discussion panel members. So if you could please introduce yourselves with your name and your 6-word summary, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Azka. Mine would be living between two cultures in one society.
Hello, George Kuharick, and my 6-word summary is most at home in the woods.
Okay, thank you. So a couple of previous podcasts back, you can hear some more about Azka and George and their backgrounds if you're interested. Now I would like to do, before we get into the discussions, a segment that I like to call, So What Have You Been Busy With Lately? And so we will ask Azka, so what have you been busy with lately?
Recently, I was babysitting 3 kids this weekend. So that was hectic. It was a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 13-year-old. And I had to take them all over, like, the Chicagoland and, like, all over and keep them entertained. I accidentally gave the 5-year-old candy. And she's really smart. She had a smart mouth, and she's like, I need more candy. And I put it away, and she had candy. She was like up on the floor, like all over the walls. And I was like freaking out because I was like, what is wrong with her? And like, she was so hyper. And it was the craziest time ever. She was like screaming, running up and down the stairs and like freaking out. And her heart rate was like all over the place. And I'm like, oh my God, never again am I giving a 5-year-old candy.
Makes you want to run right out and get 3 or 4 of your own, huh?
Yep.
Kids.
No. Never.
So how much candy did you give her?
We went to the store. Like, the thing is, they wanted to go to the movie theaters, and I didn't want to take them there because it was just like, it was really late at night. And so I streamed some movies from my laptop onto the TV. And so I was like, oh, let's go to Meijer. And you guys can pick out a candy of your choice, you know? And I thought she picked out like a smaller box or something, and like she ate the whole box of like these Sour Patch Kids, and it was a sour candy too. And like a 5-year-old she would eat so much, like she would eat like a whole plate of rice, then eat chips and stuff. And I'm like, where is it going? Your stomach is like tiny. It was crazy.
So you're the best babysitter ever.
Apparently.
They're gonna be asking for you.
Yep.
What else? What else have you been busy with?
I've been studying for my MCAT, so my medical college admission test, and it's been great going over science like crazy and taking practice tests, which are 7 hours long. Yes.
Yay.
I've been busy, yeah.
Right. And when are you taking it?
I'm taking it September 12th.
Okay.
So when it's over, I will be joyful, and I will sleep.
That's too bad you can't take it before classes start.
I could have, and I wanted to, but just with like everything going on, like I was taking an organic class this summer as well. So like by the time the class ended, I didn't feel like I had enough time. So I pushed it 2 weeks. It's only 2 weeks into the semester. Yeah. So it's not really important because like the semester doesn't really start until like 6 weeks later.
Gets going then. All right. Well, I wish you well for that.
Thanks, Dr. Ware.
You're welcome. All right. So let's discuss. Let's tell some stories. So this chapter was old-time religion. So there was, this little church in kind of the middle of nowhere in Bug Scuffle, Arkansas. And, but one of the observations that I made, something that sticks in my mind, is that, like, as a child, I'm like, smoking's bad, but everyone's smoking outside the church. And like, so in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's okay to smoke if you're a Baptist. Like, I didn't really think it's okay to smoke, like in general, but yeah, like, okay, if you're a Southern Baptist, I guess it's okay. And like, but to drink alcohol, kind of everybody did it, but it wasn't in open. Like, you had to go through the drive-through or like hope that others didn't see you kind of going through the which I guess I understand from living in Illinois that there really aren't drive-through liquor stores here. That seems to be pretty interesting to people around here, but it's common in the South.
The more south you go, the more common it is. And when you get to, say, Texas, southern Texas and Louisiana, you can get a drive-through margarita or a daiquiri with a straw in it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
As long as the straw has a lid on it, because obviously you can't drink it while you're driving.
Oh, there's the catch. That's still illegal. Okay. All right. So, all right. So this was kind of something that was puzzling to me as a child, is like, how does the world work, or what's okay, what's not okay? Like, it's not okay to drink, it's okay to smoke, but not really. And like, but people drink anyway. So what does that say? Like, so I don't know what I'm really trying to get at, but it was just puzzling to me as a child. And so I'm just wondering if you have any kind of, even as an adult, there are also puzzling things to me as an adult like this, but, you know, what seems to be okay and what's not okay. Why is drinking is okay, but marijuana is not? You know, this and that kind of questions are really interesting to me. So I'm just wondering, what do you have to say on the topic?
Well, yeah, I mean, I witnessed the same things, and it was kind of two different worlds, even though they were both Southern Baptist churches, were when we went to Little Elm versus the 86 Church. And not to disparage Little Elm at all, it was a great group of people, but I always felt more comfortable at 86 because they seemed more open with their faults. I guess.
That's true. Yeah.
I even remember the preacher, LV, saying during one of his sermons, what a sorry preacher he was. I was like, what a weird thing to admit into your congregation. But, there was just, I just felt like it was always much more accepting, and they acknowledged that they had faults, and it wasn't a dog and pony show of who can pretend to have the most perfect life.
Right. Yeah, that is refreshing. Like, even now, like, actually the church we go to, the pastor is the same way. Like, he's like, I love it when he tells, like, his personal stories because it makes me feel better, like, as a person or whatever. But I'm like, oh, you're a pastor and you have these troubles. But, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be joyous in his troubles, and that's not what I'm saying. But it makes me feel, like, more comfortable, I guess, like what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I relate to that. One thing I always found puzzling was, especially in high school, you can start driving at 16, get your license, but you need to be 18 to buy cigarettes and 21 to smoke. But it was just ironic because so many kids smoked and drank at those younger ages, yet the legalities of it just made it funny because they would just get someone older to do it or just go to someone's house to do it. So, and you have to be 18 to join the Army. So I always thought it was funny because, like, is it considered to be when you're 18, are you an adult, or 21 being an adult? It was just really interesting to see that.
No, that's true.
Yeah, and it's interesting how society's views on it has changed and continue to change. I bet in 20 or 30 years, if we keep going at this pace, marijuana will be legal everywhere and cigarettes will be illegal. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, in, like, other countries, like, drinking, like, wine and stuff is considered okay, especially, like, in European countries. And I always thought that was really interesting, like, how your culture makes it, like, it's like underage drinking is shunned, but doing other things is okay. And I always thought that was really interesting, like, when you're 21, it's okay, but, like, if you're below 21, it's so wrong. It's funny how it goes.
We had, in the Netherlands, when we were there, it was... I'm sure there was a legal drinking age, but, it wasn't an issue. I mean, I'm sure there were problems, people had problems with it, but it was, introducing it, like, drink some wine with your parents at dinner, is pretty young age, like teenage, definitely. And they argued that then it wasn't forbidden, and then people didn't have as many issues with it, which is also the marijuana argument, like, that we now have here in the U.S.
Factor,
but yeah, so it's not like, here when you're 21, people go binge drinking and, and, like, go crazy or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely interesting and different, even where, in Arkansas is the Bible Belt versus, in Illinois. In Illinois, it's probably getting more like that in Arkansas too, but in Illinois, it's just like, yeah, you go to I used to think it was so strange. We would go to amusement parks in Ohio when we would go on vacation, and you could buy alcohol at the amusement park. Like, that's not Arkansas. Like, even within the United States, it's very different what's acceptable, even on those terms. So.
Yeah, and it's, 18 years old, you're eligible for the draft. You can go into the military, you get drafted for war, but you can't buy a beer. Seems a little odd.
I always just thought, like, kids they were binge drinking, like, before 21. You don't binge drink after 21, really. So that's what I always find ironic, I guess.
Right, that's true, too, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably on your 21st birthday you do, because I can't.
Yeah, you're 21. But that was just really funny to see, like, they're binge drinking in high school, but, like, a few years later into college, they just do it for fun, like, to have a beer at, like, home or something and drink wine and all that. But I guess it's
Fun's
just
gone out of
yeah,
it.
the cool factor, I
Yeah.
guess. That's what it is, really.
Right. Yeah. All right. So that's interesting to me. I talked about specials. So that's in this chapter, and also, so there were specials at 86 and there were specials at Little Elm. They were just kind of in a different form a little bit. But, you know, regardless where these were, it took a whole lot of guts, I mean, in my opinion, to get up there and do a special. Like, you're in the spotlight. And I think I did one. I played my flute one time at Little Elm when I was very young. I don't know if I ever did a special at 86, but I used to be a lot more shy than I am now, too. I mean, I used to not talk ever, but that has changed, obviously. But that takes a lot of guts. So I'm wondering, when did you do something that was like a special, or like maybe it was a special, but a poetry slam, a club presentation, or a song, or some time when you were in the spotlight? I mean, do you enjoy that? I mean, I actually don't mind that now, although I used to be completely scared of it. But, you know, what kind of situations have you been in like that?
Yeah, I always appreciated the specials at 86 Church in particular. And I would even get up in front of people there and sing, and that's not like me. I don't karaoke. I have a singing voice that's made for silent movies, but that's about it. But I always felt comfortable singing in front of that group because, again, no one was judging you. But, you know, and I think that helped me in work and in formerly in school. I was never afraid to get up in front of the group and talk. Currently in my job, it's not uncommon for me to have to give a presentation to 100 people plus, and I have no issues with that whatsoever. Now, I'm still not going to sing. I'm not going to sing karaoke, but I just feel very comfortable. It's I don't get embarrassed.
Yeah, that's a very good skill to have. Right. I mean, Azka, you've been in my classes, but any time in every class probably that I've taught, probably every single class, and I've taught like 20 classes or something now, I have some kind of at least an option for extra credit or something to get up and speak in front of the class because it's so important. And I feel like people don't have enough.
I'm amazed at how many people are petrified to speak in front of other people, even if it's a small group. And I don't know if you're just wired that way or not. But I mean, I know it's something you can work on. But I mean, so many people I know are just terrified to give any kind of group presentation or speech.
Well, I can relate to that. In high school, I used to be really quiet as well. I guess it was my junior year where just like a light switch flipped, and I realized the worst thing that can happen is someone laughs at you, you know? And so from then on, I had this very like open, outward, extroverted kind of mentality where I can easily speak with people and start presenting. So like when I got to college, I did a lot of things in clubs and stuff where I started doing research and presenting. And when I was like a sophomore, I presented at URSA, which is like an undergraduate research type of thing. And I was so nervous, but I got over it. And from that moment on, I started presenting like in front of faculty and then even the president of our university and kind of like doing these things. But like now, like I can speak on the fly, I guess I can put it that way. Like I love presenting and like talking in front of other people because everyone looks towards you and you're just used to it, that it's so much fun to do so. Because even if you mess up, most of the time people aren't paying attention. That's the key because people get bored within 10 minutes. That's a funny thing. I had to take...
They're not really listening.
They're not really listening.
That's comforting.
Yeah, it is. I was a junior and I pushed my electives like later on. So I'm taking like really like freshman, sophomore based classes. So I was taking speech my junior year with freshmen basically. And it was the most fun experience ever because like you see them freaking out, and I wouldn't really prepare for my speeches because I was like, I can speak on the fly. So I would speak in front of them, and we had to have a debate one time, and the debate was really funny. It was like, should we legalize prostitution, yes or no? And the guy was for legalizing prostitution. I was against it for like the debate, and I didn't really care for it personally because it's like an economic issue and a political issue. But it was really fun to see how he was so scared, and he could have had a valid argument, but it's the way you talk versus your content. Because the way I was speaking and debating against him, he got scared and didn't know how to fight back. And I was like, if I was in either position, I could have beaten your argument regardless. You know,
he lost before he started,
basically. Yeah. And he knew that because he's seen me talk before, and he was so scared. And it was just,
you got him pre-intimidated.
Basically. And
Azka's quite a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get scared presenting. I love talking, and like a lot of people are shy. Like even in college, like in our genetics lab, people were scared to present at those like the last week we had to give presentations on like a disease, and people were so scared. And I'm like, it's a disease. Have fun with it. Like you're presenting on it.
It was only like 5 minutes you had to talk, seriously.
Yeah.
5 to 10 minutes.
Like, I kid you not, like, the skill is, like, a huge skill to have.
It's so hard for me to talk for less than 30 minutes. I have to say, like, oh, I'm going to boil it down.
Yeah, but, I mean, in my line of work, that's the people who are not afraid to get up and present. Those are the people who get noticed, and those are the people who end up getting promoted. And, it's really valuable skill.
Well, even in science, which is not saying something for science sometimes, but I noticed, at conferences and early on, like if I knew the person and their research and they knew it was kind of a lot of BS, but I recognized that people asked them to speak because they were good at speaking. It was like not like what you said, not even so much of what they had to say or how it's backed up scientifically, but if you can say it right, you're going to go far.
Yeah. I worked in sales, so I managed to persuade a lot of people to buy things. It was really funny because I was like in high school, like my summer job was like a cashier for this place, and they had a lottery machine, and a lot of people play the lottery. I think in the South especially, they're very superstitious about like numbers and stuff, so I can see that. And a lot of people from like Southern Illinois would like move up, and they would come, and like they would have these 3 specific numbers or 4 specific numbers they would play with every day. And there's this number, if you press the number, it would print out one of each ticket, which was worth like $160. And I would press this button sometimes, but people I would know that were really crazy superstitious, I'd be like, hey, I printed this ticket by accident. Would you want to buy it? I would persuade people to buy $20 tickets, even though they were coming to spend only $3. So
that's a skill.
You play on their superstitions, and you get to know the person. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. This is good conversation. Okay, so in this chapter, I was talking about how my dad kind of had a supernatural experience. So he really like was like on the floor and like what's going on, like what? Anyway, so whether or not you believe that, or whether or not whatever you think of that, I'm wondering, do you have some examples in your lives where you really can't explain it, like other than that was weird, like what was that? Is there some kind of supernatural experience that you've had?
Well, I live in a subdivision in Plainfield, and it used to be all farm towns. Until like the 90s, there was like a really bad tornado, so they just rebuilt, and they rebuilt massive subdivisions between farms. So all you see is cornfields and houses. And one of the funnier things is, like in my house, if you're home alone, everyone has experienced this differently within my family. If you're home alone, you will hear creaking upstairs as if someone's walking, and we can't explain it. And I've been home alone before, and you hear like someone's walking, and it's not even windy outside. And everyone says, oh, it's just your house growing in. But apparently there's superstitions that this used to be Native American burial land or something. And so apparently my house may be haunted, but I don't know. I just think it's really cool. Like, that's so cool.
So I lived in Texas for a while and worked in a really, really old building that I had a similar experience. We had it upstairs, and I heard someone walking all over the place up there. And there was only one other person in the building with me, and they came out of a door on the same floor I was on. And I was like, where did you come from? And we actually had the ghost hunters of South Texas come into that building late at night and do a sweep of it. And
What?
true story. They came in at like midnight. A team of like 5 of them had their little whatever their readers were. It looked like a little Ghostbusters kind of mechanism. And they had their one super psychic of the group who got really freaked out. Going like at the top of the stairs, which was always the place I got freaked out too. So actually, one more on that one. There was an old couple that was sitting on the bench. This was a restaurant in Texas, and they were sitting on the bench before the place opened, just waiting to get lunch. And I was like, "Yeah, hang out, it's fine." And the old lady was sitting there looking around, and she said, "There's a lot of spirits in this place." And I was just doing paperwork. I said, "Yeah, I've been told that." And she's like, "They're all good though, except one." And she turned her head to the left and looked straight up the stairs.
Oh my gosh.
I get goosebumps right now thinking about it.
That's crazy. I mean, like, even if my house is haunted, there hasn't been weird things, but our university apparently is really haunted. It's like one of the most haunted campuses in Illinois, and they had a ghost tour.
A ghost tour?
They had a ghost tour.
Yeah.
They had
What are you saying, tour or whore?
Tour. Like a tour. Like a ghost tour. It's a Catholic university, Dr. Ware.
What's the address?
No, a ghost tour.
Okay.
And they had someone come out like in October, I think, last year, and she was like an author that like went around like Illinois and like studied like the scary areas, and like she led like a ghost tour around campus, and apparently there has been crazy things on our campus, like exorcisms and all that.
So one student told me that there are catacombs, but I have not been able to substantiate that piece of information.
Neither have I. No one wants to talk.
Oh, no one wants to talk. That's the deal.
I
huh?
think there
So if I
might
just
be.
dug, like,
You
if
need
I
to do
found
some
the
digging,
secret
literally digging. Yes.
entryway, like, we'd
Have
be
you
there.
Have you been to the cemetery?
No,
Go. It's so weird.
I've never even seen a cemetery.
Really? It's like, do you know where Lake Benedict is?
Yes.
It's like in front of the parking garage. Okay, if you keep going down that road by the lake, you'll get to the priest cemetery. It's weird.
Cool.
Yeah, we have a cemetery on our campus. Like, it's weird.
I almost went to the orchards at the monastery last spring or summer, whenever the harvest was, I guess last summer, and somehow I couldn't do it. Like, had too many conflicts with kids doing stuff, but that would be awesome. It was like brambles, like an old orchard that was overgrown, and like there was such a bumper crop. It was a couple of summers ago, but I didn't make it. But I'm just like, yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I think we'll wrap it up for this one. But I like the ghost stories. What was it called? The South Texas Ghost Hunters?
The initials are actually GHOST, Ghost Hunters of South Texas. You can look them up. They're online.
I will now.
Cool. All right. So, final thoughts? Or?
It was just funny to see, like, when you mentioned supernatural experiences, Illinois is like known for like their scary stories. And if you remember the books, like Scary Stories, like it was like a book series, I guess. Kids, it was really popular in the 90s. It was just funny to read these because like people always experience like supernatural things, but they don't know how to explain it. So like with my house being haunted, like my mom freaks out. It's the funniest thing ever because she couldn't, like, one time she just left the house, no one was home. She like started freaking out because like apparently the light went off, and she like ran out and went to her neighbor's house, and she's called me crying, and I'm like, why are you scared? It's not like that bad. I don't know. At least I know they weren't bad spirits, I guess.
Well, you don't know until you have the
ghost
GHOSTs come in and
I need them.
True.
certify it.
I'll look them up now.
They'll come free of charge.
George, any final?
No, that was a lot of fun. There's plenty of stuff that we know nothing about. So
Yeah.
hey, I keep an open mind, but a skeptic's mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a scientist, but and I know we don't know anything, basically. There's so much to be discovered. But
Maybe the ghost hunters will discover it. The ghost hunters of South Texas.
That's right.
we'll have them come in and talk to our class. Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Hillbilly Justice on the School Bus podcast. Join us next time to hear about my granny's very odd forms of punishment. Until then, dream big and have fun.